If you're expecting more lack, you will weigh the risks. And instead of managing the risks, you will avoid them. And when you avoid the risks, you also avoid the reward. There is an enemy called poverty. We're going to talk about the secrets on how to destroy poverty. I'm going to give you 3 secrets on how to do that. But before we get into the 3 secrets, we first need to understand what poverty is and understand what are the weapons of mass destruction that produce poverty. Now, when most people talk about poverty, you think about finances and wealth. Certainly, that is one area in which poverty can exist in life, in finances and wealth, but it's also important to have an awareness of how else poverty can exist. In another area of life, you have fitness, and in life, it is possible to be poor in health, to be poor in wellness. So poverty can exist in our fitness. If we are poor in our physical health, if our physiology, if there are systems within our body that aren't functioning well, if they're not optimized, if they are starting to have signals of illness or of disorder, then we have poorness in fitness. If our mental health is showing signs of poverty, then we also have poverty in fitness. So this is another area of life in which the enemy of poverty can attack us. And the third area of life where poverty can exist is in our faith. This is in our spiritual endeavors. A spiritual endeavor doesn't necessarily mean your religious beliefs or if you're part of an organized institution of belief. Not at all. A spiritual quest in one's life is just simply having purpose, pursuing purpose and a life mission that's meaningful to us. This is your spiritual quest. Maybe your spiritual quest is to be a great parent to your children. Maybe your spiritual quest is to make a really meaningful contribution in your industry. Maybe your spiritual quest is something deeper than that. It's becoming a motivational speaker. That is your spiritual quest. Everyone has one, and this is your faith. And the reason why this is faith is because it requires to be in a now where we can receive that faith and move forward in achieving that spiritual quest. So when we experience poverty in our faith, what that means is that we don't feel that we're on purpose. We don't feel we have a meaningful direction, or it feels like we are not moving forward in a fulfilling endeavor. And the fourth area in which poverty can exist in our life is in our family. So what does that mean? You have important individuals in your life, whether they be blood relatives or not. Your family is an important area of life as well. And it's possible to be poor in family. It could mean that your family life, you're noticing that your family life, you would love to increase it. It could mean that you would love to improve the relationships that you have with your family, deepen them, have meaningful connections and conversations. And the fifth area in life in which you can experience poverty is in fellowship. Fellowship is all of your social connections. It's your network. It's your friends. It's also people that may become family as well. But this is the network, your social life. And being poor in fellowship means that perhaps the social connections that you have with individuals aren't quite fulfilling you. You're noticing that you're putting into it, but you're not getting out of it what is meaningful to you. It could mean that the social connections they've changed over the years. The sixth area in life in which poverty can exist is in our focus. So what does this mean? Focus is that which you have, an area in which you have intellectual growth. It is your mental area of life, that which you are developing your knowledge, your expertise, your intellectual property. You are developing your mind, your focus, where you have focused attention. So it's possible to experience poverty in your area of focus. In other words, the experience that the intellectual the intellectual path that you are pursuing is not meaningful to you. It's possible to experience poverty in terms of the knowledge that you have in a particular domain is not as rich as you would like it to be. The seventh area in life in which poverty can exist is in our function. You have finances, you have fitness, you have faith, family, fellowship, focus, and your seventh one is your function. So what is your function? Your function is your career or your professional work. For some of you, it's your business, the business in which you have founded. Sometimes is also your area of your spiritual quest. Your function sometimes is very closely tied to your fellowship. Sometimes it's very closely very closely tied to your ability to provide for your family. Sometimes your function is also very closely tied to your finances and the health and the poverty of your finances. Sometimes it is your spiritual quest in the area in which you have the most faith. So you see, your function is an area in which you can experience poverty as well. Being poor in career, being poor in your professional work could mean that it is unfulfilling. It could mean that you have been feeling stagnant. It could mean that you have not yet reached your full potential. It could mean that the feedback you've been getting, you desire these greater opportunities in your career or in your professional trajectory, but somehow you're unable to attract them. So these are examples on how one can experience poverty in their function. And there are weapons of mass destruction that produce poverty in all 7 areas of life. If we have weapons of mass destruction, the balance of the pairs of opposite is that there would be weapons of mass construction. And the weapons of mass construction are here to help you destroy and defeat the weapons of mass destruction. Because if you look at the universe, this is the laws of the universe, it's a law of physics, it's a law of nature, and it is equilibrium. In other words, there are the balance of pairs of opposites in life. For example, build and destroy. You desire to build in order to overcome poverty, in order to pass poverty. We need to build. We need production. We need to produce. We need to produce in our finances. We need to produce in our family life. We need to produce in our focus, produce in our function. So to be productive citizens means that we need to be in activities where we are building. But it's not possible to build until we first destroy. Think about it. We must destroy first before we build. If you want to build a sky tower, if you want to build those, a skyscraper, we must first destroy the land beneath us in order to build skyscrapers. And the higher the skyscraper we want to build, the greater destruction of the land beneath it. We need to build a much deeper foundation if the skyscraper is to be taller. And that is a key principle in your life as well. If you're building towards something really big and meaningful, we must first destroy. What are we destroying? We're destroying our old beliefs. We're destroying our old operating system, our old ways of being, our old habits, and so on. There is destruction, the death of our old self and the awareness that we used to have, the death of our old self, and into the becoming of our new selves, the who we need to become so that we can build and be productive citizens and to build wealth in those 7 areas of our lives. So poverty, the opposite of poverty, is also wealth. And in order to build wealth, we first experience poverty. And when we experience poverty, it creates in us a desire and a sense of urgency to build and be productive and create wealth. You see, wealth is not only in finances. You can be wealthy in those 7 areas as well. You can be wealthy in your fitness. You can be wealthy in your faith, your family, your fellowship, your focus, and your function. But it first comes with understanding the balance of the pairs of opposites. And one of the biggest reasons why individuals are unable to leverage the secret weapons of mass construction is because of the mindset of scarcity. When we have a mindset of scarcity, we're focused so much on everything that we're lacking. But you see, lack cannot exist in your experience unless it first exists in your expectations. If you're expecting more lack, you will weigh the risks. And instead of managing the risks, you will avoid them. And when you avoid the risks, you also avoid the reward. Once again, it's the balance of the pairs of opposite, risk and reward. In order for you to receive rewards that are meaningful to you, important to you, the goals could be the reward. The mission, the completion of the mission could be the reward. We need to take some risks. The risks that are balanced the pairs of opposite of the reward. Another balance of opposites is lack and abundance. If all you see is lack, you will step over the abundance to focus on your lack. Lack and abundance exist in your life simultaneously. It depends which one you're focusing on. Risk and reward exist simultaneously in your life. It depends on which one you focus on. So let's talk about now the 3 secret weapons of mass construction in order to defeat and destroy poverty in your life in those 7 areas of life. The first weapons of mass construction, number one, the first one is your mindset. Your mindset accounts for 90% of your thoughts and your actions. So let's talk about, well, what is mindset? A lot of leadership gurus talking about mindset, but what exactly is it? Is it your beliefs? Is it what you're thinking? Is it what you're feeling? Well, it is all of that. But if you think about mindset, it's simply what your mind is set to. You have a thermostat in your house. And the thermostat, you set the thermostat at a certain temperature. And depending on the temperature that you set the thermostat at, that is going to be the temperature of your home. If the temperature falls below that, the thermostat kicks in and puts the heat on. If the temperature rises above that, thermostat kicks in and you have the air conditioner and it cools it down. So your mind is set to something as well. And when your mind is set to a certain thing, it accounts for 90% of your thoughts and actions. The response in your body and in your behaviors and in your perceptions is influenced by your mindset, just like the house temperature is influenced by what the thermostat is set at. So your mindset is all the invisible mental architecture that determines which opportunities you see and which actions you dare to take. So here's how mindset is really a weapon of mass construction to help you to destroy poverty. Because the first step with mindset, whatever your mind is set to, your mindset creates your perspective. And your perspective is the place on which you stand while you observe the things that are going on around you. It's the place on which you stand. If you stand, picture this. You have an intersection, a busy intersection in which two streets are intersecting and there's four corners of sidewalks. If there was a car accident in the middle of that intersection and there were four pedestrians on each of the corners of that intersection, and if the police were to interview each of those individuals on the four corners of the intersection and ask them, did you witness the car accident? What happened? Wouldn't you agree that you're going to get four different perspectives? Why? Because the place on which they stood while they observed the same occurrence of the car accident is different. So your perspective depends on the place on which you stand. The place on which you stand in your mind, what your mind is set to. If your perspective is the place on which you stand while you observe what's happening around you, your perception is what you see from where you stand. And when you see things from where you stand, that in turn determines your practice. So perspective leads to perception and leads to practice. So your practice is what you do as a result of what you see. Now, wouldn't you agree that depending on what you see through your perception because of where you stand, your behavior changes as well? If you see something positive, you behave a certain way. If you see something you perceive as negative, you behave a different way. And so on and so forth. So that is why your mindset, depending on what your mind is set to, in the moment when you're standing in your perspective and you create a perception and this creates your practice, depending on what your mind is set to, you're going to see certain things and not see other things. So if what you see from where you stand is more negative, more lacking, more disadvantage, or more bad things, can you see how that directly influences your practice, what you do as a result of what you perceive? But the law of the universe says it's not possible for things to be one-sided. Why? Because physics principle says there's a law of action and reaction. There's an equal and opposite force. Everything has an equal and opposite. But the thing is, we don't see them both. We see one more than another. We see one perspective, one side more than another. And it's not possible for the universe to be one-sided. Let me put this in a simple way. Is it possible to only eat for a piece of bread to only have one side? Is it possible for a coin to only have one side? Is it possible for you to only be one-sided? Or are you more dynamic as an individual? Now, let me make it more deep. Is it possible for one event in your life to be only one-sided? Is it possible? Well, it depends on what you focus on. And what you focus on expands. What you focus on is the perspective on which you stand. that creates your perception and what you see, and it influences directly what you're going to do about it, and also what you don't do about it. What are you seeing? Are you seeing things happening to you, or do you see things happening for you? Are you seeing a lot of scarcity, or do you see the abundance among your scarcity? It's not possible for things to be one-sided. So that is weapons of mass construction number 1. Let's talk about the second weapon of mass construction. This one is your skill set. So you go from mindset to your skill set. Skill set is an important weapon of mass construction because, number 1, it is the thing that you have 100% control over, which means you have control over what your skill sets are. Now, notice I said skill set. I did not say skill. Skill set means more than one skill. When you have accumulated more than one skill, and it really is a skill because you've obtained mastery in it, now you have a skill set. Mastery in that skill is important. The word mastery means the ability to execute effortlessly with limited mental resources. When you've mastered something, that means you do it effortlessly. And you do it effortlessly now compared to you doing it before when you couldn't even achieve it even with your greatest effort. But eventually when you master it and it becomes a skill, it becomes effortless for you to produce that outcome. So if you have a skill set, you have more than one skill working together. And that skill set becomes your capital. It becomes your asset. And this is important because there's so much talk in the corporate landscape right now about upskilling. And there's a lot of support for executives within companies to upskill. So what is upskilling? Upskilling is building skill sets around what's important. Now, if you desire to grow in your career path, if you desire to grow in your job level, to have more influence, to be an industry architect, there's going to be a threshold at which it's no longer about technical skills. When you were an individual contributor, when you were hired for your hands to do a job, to check the boxes, to have a long to-do list, to follow directions and processes, that's where technical skills are important. If you desire to be an industry architect or an influential leader in your organization, there comes a point where technical skills are going to be less and less important. And the upskill, the skill set, is going to be everything that's non-technical. This is where we're talking about the skill in which you manage yourself, the skill in which you manage your own governance, the skill in which you lead yourself, the skill in which you understand how to empower other people, the skill in which you know how to exude diplomacy and executive presence, the skill in which how you know how to navigate really complicated conversations and how to present and how to get buy-in and how to share insights in a way that people can understand. Those are examples of non-technical skills that are important to be part of your skill set. Too many people are trying to make up in words what they lack in substance. So trying to just talk more, that's not what upskilling is all about. There's a lot of talk around, well, the skill set you need to develop is around communication. So we need to present and we need to talk more in meetings. It's not about talking more, right? If too many people are trying to make up in words what they lack in substance, what does that mean? It's a key principle. It means it's not about talking more or saying more. It's about being able to do more, being able to walk the walk, not just about talking the talk, but being able to be clear and concise in what you say, but becoming the person who can have the influence that you say you want. And becoming a person of character who can carry out that mission that you desire to carry out for yourself and for your organization as well. What is the skill set that's important for you to level up to the job level or the mission that you want to achieve? It's important to understand that. Because if skill set is the second weapon of mass construction, it's important for you to figure out what that skill set needs to be by understanding what your goal is. What is the desirable outcome for your professional trajectory? So if you're listening to this and you're nodding your head and you're saying, yes, I do need a skill set, and you really are serious about building that capital, then I invite you to work with me. I have a training that I've gone really deep into what the skill sets need to be, and also into what is the mindset that you need to have in order to end the poverty and end the cycle of struggle. And I have created a 30-minute training about that. So if you desire some deeper training than what I am providing here, just go and look at the description below, and that link will lead you right to my training, my specialized 30-minute training. And I look forward to seeing you there. So, secret weapon of mass construction number 2 was skill set. Now let's talk about the third one. The third weapon of mass construction is your tool set. Your tool set is, what are the tools that you have in order to achieve the mission that you set forth, in order to run the race that is before you. Now, tools are very important. Why? Because you need to be able to find the leverage. You are one individual. And in an industry, in an organization, it's important to be able to find the leverage because you have a very important mission you want to achieve. It was Archimedes who said that if you give me a lever long enough, a fulcrum to place that lever on, and a ground that is solid to stand on, I can move the whole world. Maybe you're listening to this and the calling that's on your career right now is that you want to make a difference in this world. You want to move the world using your skills and your knowledge and your expertise. If that is the case, then you need to find the leverage. You need to build a tool set that is your lever and have a fulcrum strong enough to set that lever upon and a foundation that's solid enough to stand on so that you can move the world. What is your tool set? Who is the team around you that's going to help you to build that tool set? And when you have the tool set and you have the leverage, you can move the world and you can end the poverty that is in your life. So with that, let's summarize everything that we talked about today. When it comes to poverty in your life, a lot of times we think about wealth, but poverty can exist in so many different forms. So your first step is to understand, where are you experiencing poverty in your life? And how committed are you to destroying that poverty? And of all the areas in your life where you are experiencing poverty, which one is the most important for you to end the poverty in? And how is that exhibiting in your life? And then for each area of your life is to develop those weapons of mass construction. What's the mindset you got to develop in that area of life? What are the skill sets that you got to develop to be able to end the poverty in that area of your life? And what are the tool sets that you need to develop? And it could be that in the moment where you make this decision, you may not have the mindset yet. You may not know what the tools are going to look like. You may not know what the skills are. But are you going to get the help that you need to develop those? Are you going to get the help that you need to help you to figure out what the mindset's got to be and the skill set and the tool set? Because life is valuable and time is valuable. And the poverty in your life is holding you back from the important mission that you have in your purpose, that you want to deploy out in the world and make a difference, then it's a worthy pursuit. So I want to hear from you. What are your biggest takeaways from today's training in terms of the poverty that you're experiencing in your life, in terms of the first steps that you're taking? And which of the weapons of mass construction are you going to undertake as a top priority? So comment below, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, and bye for now.